Hey, what's going on, y'all? So, man, look, things are just getting crazier and crazier for your boy R. Kelly. I am a R. Kelly supporter, but things are just kind of getting out of hand at this point. Um, I knew this moment was coming. I've been telling everybody that this was coming, and nobody really believed me. But I brought this up when everyone was talking about putting money into R. Kelly's commissary account, right? So I think some time ago they put another order in where in order to support the taking of $28,000 that he had in his account, and they mess around and they hit him with about $140,000 in court fees. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so now this happens, right? Singer R. Kelly already behind bars, ordered to pay victims. So let me just go ahead and get into this article and then I'll come back with my commentary. An article just basically goes on to say R. Kelly, the multi-platinum R&B singer convicted twice this year of crimes, will be required to pay at least $300,000 in restitution to some of his victims, a federal judge said on Wednesday. The money will compensate two women known as Jane and Stephanie for the cost of therapy and herpes treatment, the U.S. District Judge Ann Donnelly said at the hearing in Brooklyn. Now, to me, I don't know why it would cost $300,000 to treat herpes. I guess a huge amount of that money is going to go to the cost of the therapy that these women need because of the abuse that they endured. And I'm speaking as if all this stuff is true because he's been convicted, and there's no real way to deal with something like this until after he gets that conviction overturned. I think he will get the conviction overturned because it's basically a RICO conviction, and it's not actually a conviction on abuse for these women, right? Meaning, like, they didn't charge him specifically for abusing these women. They charge him with RICO, and then one of the consequences of that charge is that you have these victims, right? But the victims themselves didn't come out and charge R. Kelly civilly. The victims themselves weren't necessarily listed in a specific charge other than RICO, right? So that's one of the reasons I think all of this is just some bullshit. I ain't even finna lie to you, because you're charging a man a RICO, and then you're doing this crazy stuff to bring in Aaliyah's allegations, which happened probably over 15 years ago, right? And the RICO is being used to extend this time so they can create, this pattern of a crime boss, which everybody knows this man is not a freaking crime boss, right? That fits under the RICO statute. Um, so that's why all this is crazy. But what's killing me is that they're awarding these people $300,000. Now I get it; it's probably going to be 150 a piece, split between them. I imagine. I'm guessing. I don't know. And but still, $150,000 for herpes? Are you serious? Like, I don't really know that much about herpes. I did do a couple of videos in which it covers, the common virus that most people have, and some people don't even know they have it. But from my understanding, it's like you get a little cold sore and that's it, right? And it's not something you can really treat because according to the information I'm finding, it comes and it goes, right? Now I know some people are saying, well, it's not the same thing because it's going to be on their, on their genitals or whatever. But even information I find on that, it comes and it goes, right? So it's not something that you can actually treat. Now, of course, I'm always open to being corrected. So if I'm wrong, correct me. Correct me. Put down in the comments on what you think about treating something like this, and whether you think it's cost $150,000 to actually treat, right? And the other thing I'm trying to figure out is who is actually Jane and who is Stephanie. uh I believe the two people they're talking about is number one, Azriel, because I remember reading the transcripts in one of my videos, and there was testimony from Azriel where she spoke about how she was negatively impacted, by herpes, whatever she had contracted from Rkelly, and there was no. I didn't see any. I didn't read all of the testimony on that in terms of the rebuttal. I don't think Rkelly testified, so it wasn't really rebutted, right? Because Rkelly didn't testify. Um, but I remember reading that, so I think one of them is Azriel, and I don't know who Stephanie is. I think Stephanie is going to be the other lady who followed Rkelly in his 2008 trial. But I forget her name. If you remember her name, put it in the comments below. This thing has been going on for so long, and I forget a lot of details. I guess I'm just getting old, y'all. But, comments below if you know who Jane and Stephanie are. And then it goes on and says that figure is likely to rise after prosecutors recalculate the cost of the medication for Stephanie, right? So what kind of medication are you taking, that's going to cost $150,000? Comments below if you know, right? But the killing part is that 300,000 is the low figure. They're going to increase that, right? Then it goes on and says Donnelly denied prosecutors' request to compensate Jane for lost income. So I'm really guessing Jane is definitely Azriel, and I don't even know what type of lost income she's trying to claim. Maybe it's not Azriel, because I think Azriel was living with him and staying with him. So how did you lose income if you were never working to begin with, right? So maybe Jane isn't Azriel. I need your help to help figure out who Jane is. Comments below. And I need your help figuring out this lost income thing. Comments below. And then it goes, and provide compensation to a third victim known as Sonia, and I forget who that is as well, right? And it goes, Kelly attended the hearing via Zoom from a federal prison in Chicago. Donnelly sentenced Kelly in June to 30 years in prison after a jury convicted him of racketeering and other charges. So again, I just want to point out, not to beat a dead dog with a stick, but you're not really charging this man with specific crimes. You're charging him with racketeering. And this is something you do to crime bosses, y'all. This is not something you do to somebody who's basically having sex, right? And then it goes on and says, prosecutors said the 55-year-old Kelly exploited his stardom and wealth over more than 2 decades to lure women into his orbit for his pleasure, right? And it goes on to say the month-long trial amplified accusations that had dogged the singer of the Grammy Award-winning hit I Believe I Can Fly. Kelly was also convicted last month in Chicago on separate charges and for luring women in for his pleasure, right? So this is where, again, it just kind of gets crazy, because this 300,000 is only the beginning. He still has to have a post-conviction proceedings for his recent conviction in Chicago, right? And again, I talk a lot about the post-conviction proceedings. Maybe I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. But to sum it up, post-conviction proceedings is where they handle things like your sentencing, and they also handle things like restitution and, the taking of your money and all this other type of thing, right? And then it goes on, he is awaiting sentencing in the case, and it also faces various state charges in Illinois and Minnesota. And again, I have to reiterate, this is only the beginning. This thing has gone beyond, justice. And they're really trying to destroy this dude. Like, they're trying to make sure that any little bit of money he gets, they're going to take. So you already have the 140 in court costs. You have the 300,000, the 140,000 in court costs. I'm sorry, the 300,000 in restitution, which is going to be recalculated. It's going to be more, and you also have the upcoming. restitution and the sentencing and Chicago Federal District, which is going to be probably, God knows how much. It could be, if they hit him with 300 here, they're probably going to hit him with another, 300-400 in Chicago, right? In the Federal District of Chicago, or Illinois. I'm sorry, there's no Federal District of Chicago. And then after he's gotten through all that, he still has to go to trial in Illinois and Minnesota. And if he loses, you have another potential, 300,000-400,000. So I would guess, and you guys, you keep me honest, and let me know if I'm wrong, but I would guess before all this is said and done, this dude is going to be looking at $1 million or more in restitution, right? And like I said, I think at this point we've gone far beyond just justice. This is about, getting as much as you can from this dude and destroying him. That's what this is about at this point. And not to mention, this doesn't really include all the civil charges or claims against him, right? Because we also know that there's a civil claim for the landlord fees. There's a civil claim for Heather Williams. I forgot how much money she hit him for. I mean, all this is important, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. Let me just finish this article. Kelly, whose full name is Robert Sylvester Kelly, is among the most prominent people convicted of misbehaving during the Me Too movement against such conduct by prominent men. So basically, before it's all said and done, every man over the age of 35 is going to end up in jail and sued civilly for having sex. That's what this is all about, in my own opinion, right? And I think we've gone way beyond just justice here. I think we've gotten to the point where they're trying to destroy this dude. They're trying to take everything he owns, and they're trying to make sure he can't appeal. That's the most important thing. Now, he has Jennifer Bonjean, and Jennifer Bonjean, I think, is going to do a bang-up job when it comes down to the appeal in the Federal District of New York, because it's already common knowledge that that conviction is basically bullshit, right? Because you're bringing a guy in and charging him with RICO. He doesn't have a criminal enterprise. He has an enterprise that is used to make money off of his music career. And what comes along with that is that, he's a single guy who wants to have sex, right? So he's not basically, abducting people, and he's not, forcing people to do certain things, and, so on and so forth. No, he's a celebrity, and this is what celebrities do. So if you're going to convict him, you pretty much have to convict any male celebrity who's out there enjoying themselves, So that's why the New York indictment is just 100% bullshit, and I think it's going to come out that it is. The only question is how long or how far will he have to go in order to prove his innocence. A lot of times when you go to appeals court, the appeals court will want to uphold the decision because they like the judge and they don't want to see the judge's convictions overturned. Or sometimes you'll have to go as far as the Supreme Court for that state. And if that doesn't work, you go to United States Supreme Court, right? So the question is, how far will this dude have to go to get that conviction overturned? I think, and I'm just going to be honest, I am an R. Kelly supporter. I think it's going to be a little tougher overturning the conviction in Chicago because you have, those tapes that have come out, and those tapes are going to make it kind of difficult for him to overcome. I'm not saying it can't be overcome, because you have those witnesses and their testimony is unreliable. The testimony from all those alleged victims and witnesses are unreliable because most of them, if not all of them, lied, right? So based on the fact that all the witnesses were not credible, that gives you a really good reason to appeal. And another reason to appeal is that he couldn't have a fair trial because everyone will have in the back of their psyche the R. Kelly documentary, right? So there's no way possible that he can have a fair trial. So, there is a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes down to the Chicago federal uh, conviction. But me personally, it's going to be tough trying to overturn that one. You guys let me know. Like, I'm open to being corrected. I'm open, to be put on the right path here. Comments below. Let me know what you think about the Chicago conviction. And but I think the worst is yet to come because, like I said, he still has to go to the state of Illinois and the state of Minnesota. And I think I did do some coverage of the alleged victims in the state of Illinois. I think her name, I forget her name. I think it's Lanita Carter. I can't remember. I have videos on it. It's been about at least a year and a half since I did those videos. But I think those charges are kind of BS because because of her character. And you can watch my videos on that. I'll see if I can put a link at the end of this video where you can watch the video on that, and you can see why that case is a bunch of BS as well. So, but nonetheless, the problem that Rkelly is having at this point is that he's had all these convictions, and I think they're going to use that in the Illinois state case and the Minnesota state case. And it's like, the biggest thing here now is that he is being drained of his money. I think that's the most important thing that's going to be a factor in these next two trials is that this dude don't have enough money, doesn't have any money, not enough. He doesn't have any money to be able to fight anymore. And I think that's all a part of this strategy. Now, I think there's a difference between Rkelly and someone who has a wherewithal to self-represent. Although it's going to be difficult for somebody to represent themselves in this situation because you just have so much coming at you. And if you're not used to dealing with, claims in general, the work would prove overwhelming, right? Even if you just had one claim against you, trying to appeal that and, go back and forth to court, it can be overwhelming when they are trying to oppress you. Right, when there's a deliberate effort to oppress you, especially when you have things like this. But I think the difference between Rkelly and someone who can represent themselves is that it doesn't really matter how much money you take away from a self-represented litigant because the foundation of their defense or their claim is not based on money. It's based on their effort. And they could be homeless, right? They could be absolutely homeless. But so long as they're good at reading and writing and they're really good at basically understanding the legal process and the civil process, and they can understand how to file motions and they can understand the rules and procedures and how to use them, money is never going to impact a person like that because they could be homeless and they'll know to go in and file a motion based on informa propis, if I'm even pronouncing it right. But there's motions that you can file. You can basically say, hey, I don't have any money, but I need to file these motions. I need to self-represent myself. So I'm filing this motion to basically waive all court costs and all fees. And if you don't have any money, then you're going to be able to get that granted. And now money is not an issue when it comes down to represent yourself and filing things, right? So there's a lot of little tricks and there's a lot of little things you can do to bypass a lot of nonsense and red tape in a legal process once you understand as a self-represented litigant how to do that. And I just think that Rkelly is going to be, it would be almost impossible for Rkelly to do it because he's been known to, have problems reading and writing, right? So taking all of Rkelly's money is going to be the nail in the coffin, and that's what they're trying to do, people. And I don't know how Rkelly can resolve this. I think the best thing that Rkelly could have going for himself right now, again, is to have a third party, possibly a fan, create a trust, and people donate money to that trust, and that way they can't take that because that's not money that R. Kelly owns. It's a trust established on behalf of R. Kelly, but not money that R. Kelly can use, right? And then the trustee, right, whoever the fans choose, can make decisions on how to best finance R. Kelly's legal defense, right? I think that's basically the best option for him. But at this point, you can no longer send money to R. Kelly's commissary because they're just going to take it. They've already shown you what they're going to do. He had $28,000 and they took it. They took it, and they took it before they even had a court order. So that shows you that you're dealing with a bunch of gangsters which is typically a situation when you're dealing with the government. You know, they'll take your shit and then they'll file a motion afterwards, right? So you're dealing with gangsters. So you can no longer put money in his commissary. I would say if you want him to have some money, then you can drip small amounts of money into the account at a time, like maybe $50 or $30, right? And it's controlled so that you make sure he gets that money before you put any more money in. And the government is not going to waste their time trying to garnish, 20 and $30. But in this case, it wouldn't surprise me. But I would say before they even get a chance to garnish the 20 and $30, he probably would receive it already. And of course, there's other options like maybe sending money to another individual's commissary, and with R. Kelly being able to get access to that money. But if you take that route, then you risk a situation where you have to pay this person a service fee, right, in order for R. Kelly to get the money. And you also risk the other individual trying to extort R. Kelly. So it gets kind of crazy at this point. I recommend one way to get commissary to R. Kelly is just sending him items that he can resell in the prison, right? And I'm not sure if that's legal. So someone research that for me and let me know if it's legal. But I suggested one thing to do is to send him books and magazines, because books and magazines have a high price value on them, because prisoners eventually get bored and they need some form of entertainment. And if I have a book or a magazine that I can read to tell me what's going on in the outside world, someone is going to want that book and magazine, and I can take that and I can barter it for things that I need to basically survive, right? So I've never been into a prison, but I'm imagining, based on what I've seen on TV and movies, that this is how something like that could work. I could be wrong. If you think I'm just nuts and something like this wouldn't work, comments below. Again, I'm good, and I open being corrected. But that's pretty much it for this video. R. Kelly is just really in the world of trouble. I think it's going beyond justice. They're taking these measures to try to make sure he can't afford legal representation, to make sure he can't appeal these bogus convictions against him. That's it for this video. You guys let me know what you think. Comments below.